Okay, welcome back, everybody. The last sort of racing thoughts video that I put up to wrap up the end of 2023 here, I didn't quite get to a couple of the just sort of minor racing stuff that I've been playing this year, and just some honorable mentions and whatnot. So I figured I'd wrap those up in a really short video here. This one's not going to be nearly the 43-minute monster that the last one was. At any rate, here I've been playing a fair bit of this Isle of Man TT Right on the Edge 3. It's very, very good. I'm bad at rally games. I'm even worse at motorbike games. But I'm really enjoying this. It's really, really cool. What can I say? It's the third. I've played all three of them. In my opinion, this one is clearly the best. The sensation of speed is a bit terrifying, which it should be, considering the source material. It's a lot of fun. What can I say? It's great. I don't play a whole lot of motorbike games. The sort of three that I bounce around on is probably this, the Ride series, and the MotoGP. Of those three, honestly, I think the Ride series is my favorite, just because I feel like it's a little more forgiving with the rewind mechanic and everything. I have not had a chance to play the new Ride 5 yet. I really want to, but I have all the other Ride series, and I've played them, and they're really fun. I kind of feel like, again, I can only compare this to Ride 4. I haven't played Ride 5 yet. I intend to at some point. But I feel like the bike handling in this game, in Isle of Man 3, is a bit better and maybe a bit more forgiving than in the Ride series. However, having said that, I do have some of the assists on. I have the dual braking, together. And there's different physics levels that you can tune, and mine's in the middle. It's moderate or whatever. There's like extreme simulation mode, and then there's beginner, and then there's the one in the middle, and that's the one I'm doing. So to be fair, I might be comparing apples and oranges here, but I really feel like the handling on this game is a bit improved from Ride 4, in that I feel like the bike's a bit more pointable. For some reason, in a lot of ride games, maybe it's my ineptitude at riding games, I feel like it's difficult to make the bike go where I want it to go, if that makes any sense. And a lot of them, it's easy to overcorrect. So it's a real sort of learning curve from someone that's used to playing Sims and Simcades on a four-wheel base stuff. But at any rate, the new Isle of Man Right on the Edge is a maze. It's beautiful, it's fun, it's exhilarating, and it seems to be very tunable as I hit the curb and crash and die there. Very, very good. I hope to play the Rides 5 soon if I can get a chance. But having said that, let's move on to the next category. In the last video, when I was talking about ACC and its most recent update, I did neglect to mention one thing that I personally find just it seems like a minor thing, but to me it's pretty great. With playing ACC on the consoles, previous to the latest update, we have been very, very limited to how many laps the replay mode will save for us. So the game's been out for 5 years now. It came out in 2018. And for 5 years, if you wanted to see a replay of something that had just happened, you'd need to pause the game in the middle of the race within about 3.5 laps of when the incident you want to watch occurred. Because it does not save the entire race in replay mode. And when I powered it up after the most recent update, I was just sort of futzing around with the menus trying to figure out what was what and what was new, and I noticed that it would save longer replays now. And when I did those 10-minute races that I recorded for the last video, it saved the entire race replay, which is one of the reasons I was able to use those camera cuts and the replay camera picture-in-picture thing with Assetto Corsa Competizione throughout the whole 7-lap race, which previously to the update, that was not a thing we could do. I have not pushed the envelope on that yet. I've not seen how many laps it will record, but this is something that, PC gamers have not had an issue with from when the game launched if you're playing ACC on your PC, then it saves the whole race. Even if you're doing a multiple hour long race, it saved the whole replay. And it's a kind of one of those features, one of the many features that I'm a bit jealous of with people who are able to play this stuff on PC. But finally, we've got the ability to record replays in ACC that are longer than 3.5 laps. Thank you, Kunos. Ermagerd. Okay, so completely forgetting Simcades altogether, let's just talk about some of those straight-up arcade racing games that I've been playing, with a controller. This is not SimRig stuff. This is pure arcade-style racing that you play with a controller. There's 3 sort of older ones that I keep going back to that are just, they didn't come out this year, but they just really stand the test of time, and I really enjoy them and still going back to them. And those 3 are Slipstream, that sort of kind of 16-bit style sprite-based, sprite scaling-based racing game that I still really love, and the very stylized sort of overhead 3D sort of flat-shaded rally game called Art of Rally. Love, love, love that. But I think the arcade game that I've been playing the most this year is that Rush Rally Origins. Now, it was initially, the Rush Rally series is basically kind of a phone thing. I mean, they're up to Rush Rally at least 3 on phones and tablets, which is great, and it's really cool. It's probably my favorite Rush Rally game, but I hate playing games on my phone. Even after, years ago, Apple finally let us sync Bluetooth real controllers to the phone, I still just don't like playing on those phones and tablets. So, but the ability to play Rush Rally Origins on both the PlayStation and the Xbox is fantastic. Even if it's an older game, again, it's another sort of top-down arcade-style rally racer, but it's just a fantastic game. Compared to what else is on these latest consoles, it's very simplistic in its graphic style, but it's just fun. It's just pure fun, and I can't overstate that enough. But those are the 3 sort of kind of my main go-tos as far as controller-based arcade-style games. But there are 2 really notable items in this category that kind of blew me away. The first one I didn't even know about until I watched a Digital Foundry episode on it, and that is hidden in the new Like a Dragon game, specifically the Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name. In those games sometimes you can physically go in this 3D world, go into an arcade and play arcade games, which are original old school games. Well, in that new Like a Dragon game is freaking Daytona USA 2. Now, it's not called Daytona USA 2 because the people who own the track at Daytona, will want to get paid to have their license for you to be able to say Daytona. So it's called Sega Classic Racing 2 or whatever. But this is, basically it's the arcade follow-up to Daytona USA. And as far as I know, this was never released to consoles in the US. This was an arcade-only thing, and it's never been released to consoles ever. And all of a sudden, it's just kind of shadow dropped right in the middle of this other game that has nothing to do with racing. It's crazy that it exists, but it's great that it exists. It's awesome. And I got a chance to play it, and it's incredible. If they ever, if Sega would ever get off their asses and release a collection of their classic 90s era racing games from the arcade, I would be all over it. Especially if they added some features, because this is basically the arcade port running in an emulator. So there's no way to, rewind. There's no added console features. It's just the arcade game wrapped inside of another game. As well as another arcade game from Sega from the 90s that I never even heard of, because as far as I know, it only came out in Japan and never came out in the West, called Motor Raid, which is a motorcycle. It's like a futuristic motorcycle racing game that actually began its life as a sequel to the Sega arcade classic Manx TT, which is, their kind of arcade version that's based on the racing what you're looking at right now from the Isle of Man. So Sega came out with a game on the arcades called Manx TT, which is an arcade-style version based on what you're looking at now. That actually came out on the Sega Saturn. I had that, and it's fun, but it's got a bad frame rate, it's got a bad resolution, bad draw distance, so you kind of have to find your fun there because of the sort of underpowered nature of the Sega Saturn. But I super enjoyed it anyway. So anyway, they decided to come out to it with a sequel to Manx TT, but it's somewhere along the development they just decided to go all out crazy and make a futuristic motorcycle racing game that's kind of like part Manx TT, part Wipeout, because the tracks are crazy and futuristic, and also part Road Rash, because you have weapons that you can hit and kick your opponents as you ride by them on the track. It's called Motor Raid. It's pretty fun. I'd never even heard of it. But anyway, Daytona USA 2 is in Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name. It's on Game Pass right now, so if you have Game Pass, you can play it, that whole game, with no additional cost. I'm not going to say free because you're paying for Game Pass. And you kind of have to start up the game, go through the initial cutscenes and go through a little bit until it lets you loose into the open world, and you can walk your way to the Sega arcade, and you can just play those games within the game. But I thought that was pretty mind-blowing and very cool. The other thing that kind of, I say really took me by surprise was, if you watched the Game Awards or any kind of gaming news or whatever, that Fortnite, that sort of, battle royale, free-to-play online game, they're trying to expand their reach and compass of the game to include a bunch of other stuff. Like, instead of just, the battle royale game, then they came out with the battle royale game that you could play without building stuff. And now they've teamed up with other developers to include like a rhythm game in there, and there's like a Lego game in Fortnite now. And apparently, these things have nothing to do with playing a battle royale and, parachuting into an area and shooting people. There's, like I say, a Lego game, a rhythm game, and there's a racing game in there, an arcade-style racing game, and it's called Rocket Racing, which I believe is called Rocket Racing because it was made by the people who make Rocket League. I think it's Psygnosis. I'm not 100% on that. But it's basically the cars from Rocket League in a sort of Mario Kart style game that's free to play online multiplayer. So I'm like, I'll give it a try. Now I haven't played it a whole lot. I've probably played it less than an hour. I played the little tutorial, and then I started playing some people online, and it blew me away. It's way better than any free-to-play Mario Kart style arcade racing, kind of kart racing thing should ever be. And it's not just aping on the Mario Kart formula. It's not a Mario Kart clone at all. There's a lot of moves or jumping and air dashing and stuff that, like come straight from Rocket League. And it's incredible so far. I don't know how deep it is. I don't know how many tracks. It remains to be seen whether or not it'll hold my interest. But if you have any interest in kind of Mario Kart style stuff, or have any affinity for Rocket League, and you can't go wrong. It's free to play. Just download it and try it. I enjoy it a lot, and I definitely intend to go back to it. Just probably in between some of my other stuff, because it's pretty phenomenal from what I've experienced so far, and definitely can recommend. And not that it's difficult to recommend a game that's free to play. It's no investment on your part whatsoever. But at any rate, let's wrap that up, and then we'll get to the last little topic, and we will wrap up 2023 here. Okay, so I only really have two other things to talk about. I told you this video wasn't going to go 43 minutes long. Oh! As I eat asphalt again. So one is not really related to racing games. It's racing in real life. And you may or may not have been following on YouTube Michael Fassbender, the actor, his progress in a YouTube series called Road to Le Mans, where over the past several years, Michael Fassbender has been driving a GTE Porsche, and becoming a real-life racing driver with the aspirations to go and race at Le Mans, and he did that. The series is incredible. It's long. I think it's usually like 30 to 45 minute episodes, and very, very cool. But the reason that I bring it up now is that the team behind it, I guess there's maybe a Porsche-sponsored team, but has released the whole series and cut the whole thing down to like one 90-minute or 120-minute film. It's just called The Road to Le Mans. But it's the whole thing kind of condensed down into 90 minutes, and it's very cool. Obviously, it cuts out a lot of stuff from the individual episodes and everything, but it sort of ties it all together into a cohesive whole, and is very, very cool. If you have any interest in sort of real life GT3 or GTE racing or whatever, it's or if you have any interest in the actor Michael Fassbender at all, it's a very cool watch, and I can definitely recommend. It's pretty damn cool. The other thing that is completely unrelated is that I finally got off of my wallet and joined the 4K HDR TV thing. So for years and years and years, like a decade, I've been kind of stuck on 1080p I had this big 1080p TV that I've had for 10 years, and I just couldn't justify buying a new TV just to get one in 4K HDR while the one that I had was working. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Especially because the difference between 1080p and 4K, for me, someone who's really old and has bad eyesight anyway, I figure I probably wouldn't really notice much of a difference. Then I got to factor in the fact that the TV is still working. It's still perfectly fine. And I don't need a second TV. Also, at the time, like 10 years ago or whatever, 10, 15, I don't even know how long I've had that TV. But I paid a lot of money for it. A lot of money. And I'm not in the position now to spend a lot of money on a TV. Not even remotely. So, the 1080p TV finally died. It started getting these rows of dead pixels across it that was just interfering with my ability to read the subtitles in games and stuff, and it was just getting worse and worse. It was one line across the screen that wouldn't work, and then there was two, and then there was three, and then like a couple of months later there's like 10, 12, 14 of these single pixel width lines across the screen of just rows of dead pixels, and I'm like, okay, I finally got off my wallet and bought a 4K TV, but I wasn't gonna. I was not even remotely gonna go out and spend any real money on a TV. I mean, part of me wants to. I wanted to go. Oh, let's go get an OLED TV or something, or the QLED TV or something super crazy like that. No, I went out and I bought literally the cheapest 4K TV that I could find, and I paid a third of what I paid for my 1080p TV like 10 or 15 years ago. So I paid, like I say, I bought pretty much the cheapest one that I could find. To be honest, I didn't think the 4K would make that much of a difference because of my crappy eyesight. But I have to say, being able to play stuff in 4K now, it does make a little bit of a difference. It's definitely noticeable. I didn't know if it would be or not. It's absolutely added more detail, more granular sort of just resolution, and just stuff I can see in the textures better. It's not a huge kind of night and day thing. It's definitely an improvement. But the one thing that I did not anticipate is that what really makes the difference between the new TV and the old TV is HDR. That changes everything. The jump to 4K from 1080p isn't nearly the jump from non-HDR to HDR. That absolutely made a night and day difference. That was huge. I'm not going to say I should have done it earlier, because, I shouldn't have, whatever. But my TV was working, it's fine, whatever. Now, I can only imagine if I had actually gone out and spent real money on a TV, like $2,500, $3,000, $4,000 or whatever on some TV that's like super nice and fancy and OLED and expensive, I'm sure it would be even better. It would be a much better experience that I'm getting right now. But even the cheapest piece of crap 4K HDR TV blew away the 1080p non-HDR TV that I've had for more than a decade, which on the face of it seems a sort of, Captain Obvious kind of thing to say. But really, it's not the resolution that made the difference. It's the HDR. And I can only imagine, a part of me wonders, like, oh, maybe I should save up and go buy a really expensive TV, because then I can see what happens, because what I have now, obviously, since it's cheap, you know already, it's an LCD or an LCD TV, which has a backlight, which is not great for high contrast, because the backlight across all the LEDs sort of washes out some of the richest blacks a little bit. Plus, it's like a 60 hertz TV, so I can't take advantage of any of the games that run at 120 hertz frame rate or whatever, because there's, I can't use VRR or 120 hertz output from any of the games that support it. So there's a lot of features that I'm missing. But just, wow, to go with a cheap-ass TV that cost me a third of the TV of my previous TV has been a huge jump, and wow, it's been cool to experience. I've been going back and playing a lot of older games that were, 4K and HDR that I played and beat and forgot about and moved on. I've gone back to play some of those games, and it's kind of a different experience too. But very, very cool. But that's it. I am done rambling in 2023. I'm done wasting your time and mine talking about stuff that nobody cares about. But that's it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a really great holiday season. Hope everybody stays safe. If you're traveling, y'all be careful. The Rona is still a thing. Protect yourself, protect your neck. Have a good holiday, and I will see you next year.